And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we're going to be looking at the college football playoffs, the standings, who has the first round byes, and who's going up against who in these games. And again, these are probably going to change. It really just depends on how the final week of college football goes and how some of these bowl games end up going as well. We'll see how it works, and we'll see like which teams end up being eligible for the college football playoffs and their standings. So I'm going to go ahead, pull up the screen real quick. Just give me 1 second. All right, there we go. So as you could see, obviously the Oregon Ducks, there's really no how should I say? There's no other team that has better cushion in the college football playoffs than the Oregon Ducks right now. They're the only team that has gone undefeated in their season, and rightfully so. They are the number one team in not just the Big Ten, but also in the entire nation. This team is very good. This team is very deadly, and they have tremendous athletes. They have great wide receivers. They have really fast wide receivers as well. They have solid middle linebackers. They have great corners. Basically, everything about this team has been phenomenal. They've been dominating in their conference, and they've been winning all of the important games as well. They beat Ohio State, which was by far their most impressive win in this entire season. Ohio State is ranked, I believe, second in the nation, as well as second in the Big Ten, I believe. If there was any other team that would be ranked higher than them, it would be probably Penn State. But right now, as of how it looks and how the standings are, it would seem like Ohio State is ranked second in the entire nation, and rightfully so. They also have a great team. They have great running backs. Judkins is phenomenal, and same with a lot of the receivers. They got this freshman who is just an absolute beast. A lot of these teams, they have really young players that are incredible and really capitalizing on this new era of college football, with NIL deals and making money like that as well. And like I said, the Ducks, they ended up beating Ohio State, and they also ended up beating the Fighting Illini, who are ranked 20th in the nation. And that's another really solid team that they ended up destroying. I mean, they won 38-9, and they've been dominating their conference. It makes total sense that they are the number one seeded team, and they're going to go into the college football playoffs with a bye week. And the Texans, since they are the top seed in since they're the top seed in the SEC, they're also going to be they're also going to have a bye week, and they're ranked third in the nation right now, but again, they're number one in the SEC, so it makes sense that they're going to get a bye week. And they did drop a game to Georgia, which was their biggest loss, but they did also beat Michigan, who at the time were the number 10 team in the they were the number 10 team in the nation. And they also beat the Vanderbilt Commodores, who were that was the team that ended up beating Alabama in a shocking win. And after that win, they were ranked 25th, and they ended up beating them 27-24. So rightfully so, they are the top team in the entirety of the SEC, and they're going to go into the game. They're going to go into the playoffs with a bye week. Now, they're going to play the Aggies, and I believe the Aggies, they are coming off of a bad loss to the Tigers, I think it was, that they ended up losing to. And the Tigers, they were unranked. And of course, when you lose to an unranked team, that is ultimately going to hurt your standings, not just in the entirety of college football, but now in your playoff hopes as well. So I believe they're going to have to either win this game, and some other teams are going to have to lose this game to even give them a chance. But it's not looking good for them. And then in the other team that has another bye week is the Miami Hurricanes. They're a fantastic team. They got Cam Ward, who I hope is going to be the future quarterback of the New York Giants. He only had one loss in this season. The Miami Hurricanes, they've been phenomenal with Cam Ward at quarterback. And they also have some solid wins against rather competent teams. I mean, they did beat the Gators. They also beat the California Golden Bears, the Louisville Cardinals. Florida State, who's been awful this year, and they also go up against Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has a really solid record this year as well, but they earn the bye week. They've been dominating in most of their games, but they're only third in the ACC. So that's a little bit interesting. And as we know, Boise State, they're obviously going to be competing in the college football playoffs as well. I don't expect them to drop their final game, so they're going to have the final bye week. And then the games that are going to be on the first round, Georgia's going up against Tennessee, and that one is going to be a rather, at least as of right now, that's going to be a rather interesting game. I believe one of the games that Georgia ended up dropping was against, actually, no, Georgia ended up beating Tennessee. Excuse me, that's my bad. I'm mistaken the two. But if Georgia ends up losing, I don't think they're going to be out of the playoffs. I don't think Georgia is going to be out of the playoffs even if they lose. Of all the teams that have these, I might as well just skip through these because right here you guys can see the standings and how they look a little bit better. And don't mind this. There's nothing that I can really do about that. I don't want to play this video for obvious reasons, but now you can see. And these brackets, they always change. Like they're more often than not, they're always going to change. As you could see, the first team that has been ruled out was Clemson, and the second team that was ruled out was Alabama. And Alabama, they lost a huge game last week against it was an unranked team, I believe. They did not play well in that unranked game at all. They played really, really bad. It was against the Sooners. They ended up losing 24-3. They only put up 3 points in this game against Oklahoma, which was embarrassing. And for a team that apparently prepares for big games really good, they did not prepare for this one at all. This is a really, really bad this was a bad showing for the Crimson Tide. And I mean, they're not going to be in the college football playoffs. It doesn't seem like they're going to be. They're an 8-3 team, and as I said, the only 3-win team that I see making the college football playoffs is going to be Georgia. But you can see the standings right now. Notre Dame going up against SMU, Penn State going up against Indiana. And Indiana, they recently dropped their game against Ohio State. They lost in embarrassing fashion. I mean, that was really the first competent team that Indiana played. Because the last week that they played, I wasn't able to watch the entirety of this game, but the final score against the Buckeyes, Ohio State, was 38-15. And throughout the entirety of Indiana's year, they have not played a competent team. I mean, they played the Panthers, they played the UCLA Bruins, excuse me, they played Maryland, the Terrapins, Nebraska, Michigan, Washington Huskies. Like, up until Ohio State, their biggest win was against Nebraska. And, I mean, Michigan, at the time that they played them, they were unranked. And about time when they played an actually good team and an actual ranked team, they ended up losing. So I think their placement at, like, being ranked at number 5 right now in the rankings, I don't think that's fair to them, and I don't think that's fair to some of the other teams, because it's like, I understand they've dominated in their conference and you can't really blame them for their schedule, but still, that was the only dominant win that they've had. That was the only win that they've had that was against a competent team. And speaking of, I'm going to end this off with this, because I am running out of time and I want to get into the final segment, but I'll end off with this. If Ohio State does not beat Michigan in this coming game on Saturday, then the coach for Ohio State is going to get fired. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm going to throw that prediction out there. If Ohio State does not beat Michigan, then they're going to get fired. That coach is going to be gone. Because it's been 3 years since Ohio State has been able to beat Michigan after just owning them in every single one of these games. And, like, it was, I want to say, like, for around over 10 years, the Ohio State Buckeyes, they've always beaten Michigan. And then 3 years ago, that was the first win that Michigan got from them, and it was just a whole new era from there. Michigan ended up beating them the year after that, and then they ended up beating them another year, I believe. and it was really really bad. And they've been unable to beat Michigan for a while now, and that's a real stain on the coach's legacy because in the last few matchups, and they usually beat Michigan. They usually beat Michigan, and in the last few matchups that they've played, they ended up losing to them, and it's like that would ultimately affect Ohio State's season, and that really messes up their hopes for even making the college football playoffs in the last few years, because Ohio State, they were ranked really really highly last year. I remember that I believe they were like the number 2 team, but then when they played Michigan and they lost to Michigan, then they dropped and they lost their spot in the college football playoffs because it was like you can only select 4 teams at the time. So if he loses in this game, he's going to get fired. But that's all that I have in this final segment, well, in this 4th segment. So now we're going to go into the last segment where I recap the NBA in-season tournament games. I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.